I bought the cottage in Seabrook Cove for silence, not the view. After 33 years of being the family peacemaker, I drained my savings for a single front door that my sister, Marissa, didn't have a key to. I thought I was buying freedom, but I was actually buying a battleground. Less than 48 hours after I signed the deed, Marissa called to tell me she was coming with 12 friends, and she wasn't asking for permission. The ink on the settlement statement was still wet when I walked out of the title company office. Blinking against the harsh afternoon sun, it was done. I looked down at the heavy brass key in my palm, its metal warm against my skin. It did not look like much. It looked like a piece of jagged metal that could open a gym locker or a back shed. But to me, it looked like oxygen. I was 33 years old, and for the first time in my life, I owned a door that no one else had the right to open. I got into my sedan, a sensible gray compact that my mother, Diane, liked to remind me was the car of a woman who had given up on excitement. I placed the key on the passenger seat like a delicate passenger. I did not turn on the radio. I wanted to hear the silence. That was what I had just paid $340,000 for. I had not bought the cedar shingle cottage in Seabrook Cove for the ocean view, which was really just a sliver of blue visible only if you stood on your tiptoes in the upstairs bathroom. I had not bought it for the investment potential, though my real estate agent, Nolan Price, had assured me the market was stabilizing. I bought it because silence was the most expensive commodity in the Lewis family, and I was finally wealthy enough to afford it. The drive to Seabrook Cove took 2 hours from the city. As the highway turned into winding coastal roads, the knot that lived permanently between my shoulder blades began to loosen. The landscape shifted from concrete overpasses to scrub pine and sandy soil. The air changed, growing heavier with salt and damp earth. I had told almost no one. That was the rule I had set for myself 6 months ago when I started looking. In the Lewis family, good news was treated like community property. A promotion meant I was expected to pick up the check at the next 3 family dinners. A new apartment meant I had space to store my sister Marissa's winter wardrobe because her closet was too full. A breakup meant a family council meeting where my choices were dissected like a frog in biology class. So this time, I hoarded the secret. Only 2 people knew. One was Nolan, who was contractually obligated to keep his mouth shut. The other was Tessa Hale, my best friend since the 4th grade, who understood that my survival depended on compartmentalization. My phone buzzed on the console. It was Tessa. "Did you do it?" I picked up the phone and dictated a reply. "It is done. I am a homeowner." "Champagne tonight?" she asked. "Solitude tonight," I replied. "Champagne next week." I pulled into the gravel driveway of 424 Sanderling Lane just as the sun was beginning to dip below the tree line. The house was modest. It was a weathered gray cape with white trim that was peeling in a few places, and a porch that wrapped around 2 sides. It sat on a 1/4-acre lot, tucked behind a thick hedge of hydrangeas that were currently dormant and brown. It was not a showstopper. It was not a venue. It was a shelter. I killed the engine. The silence rushed in to fill the car. I sat there for a full minute, just breathing. Then I grabbed the key and stepped out. The salt air hit me immediately, cool and sharp. I could hear the ocean, a rhythmic thrumming in the distance. Muffled by the dunes, I walked up the wooden steps, listening to the solid thump of my boots on the decking. This wood was mine. This railing was mine. The peeling paint was mine to scrape or leave alone. I unlocked the front door. The mechanism was stiff, requiring a jiggle and a shove, but it opened. The air inside was stale, smelling of old wood and lemon polish. But it was clean. The previous owner, a widow named Mrs. Gable, had been fastidious. She had moved to a facility in Florida, leaving the house almost entirely empty, save for a few pieces of furniture she deemed too heavy to ship. I walked through the rooms, trailing my hand along the walls. The living room was small, centered around a brick fireplace. The kitchen was dated, with yellow laminate countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a museum exhibit about the 1990s. I loved every inch of it. I went back out to the porch to bring in my single overnight bag, That was when I noticed it. Tucked into the far corner of the porch, shielded from the wind by the curve of the railing, was a heavy wooden storage bench. It looked built in, painted the same gray as the decking. I had missed it during the inspection, or perhaps I had just assumed it was empty. A heavy brass padlock secured the lid. Taped to the top of the bench was a thick, cream-colored envelope. I frowned, stepping closer. The handwriting on the envelope was shaky but elegant, written in blue fountain pen ink, "To the new keeper." I peeled the tape off and opened the envelope. Inside was a single index card, the same shaky handwriting scrawled across the unlined side. "There are beach chairs and a shade umbrella inside. The key is under the loose board by the downspout. Use them well. But a word of advice from one woman to another, don't let them turn this place into a stage. Once the audience arrives, the piece never comes back." I read it twice. A chill that had nothing to do with the sea breeze pricked at the back of my neck. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. It was a strange phrasing. I looked at the padlock. I walked over to the downspout, nudged the loose decking board with the toe of my boot, and saw the glint of a small silver key. I bent down, retrieved it, and walked back to the bench. The lock clicked open easily. I lifted the heavy lid. Inside, just as the note promised, were 4 folded beach chairs and a large canvas umbrella that smelled of mildew and sunscreen. It was innocuous, just typical beach gear left behind by an old woman who didn't want to pay for shipping. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet air. I was projecting. I was reading ominous warnings into the kindness of a stranger because I was so used to looking over my shoulder. Mrs. Gable probably just meant I should keep the house for myself, not let the neighbors intrude. I relocked the bench and pocketed the key. I tucked the note into my back pocket. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. It was good advice, and I intended to follow it. I spent the next 2 hours cleaning. It was a ritual of claiming. I wiped down the inside of the kitchen cabinets, swept the hardwood floors, and opened the windows to let the cross breeze chase out the staleness. I sat on the floor of the empty living room and ate a sandwich I had brought from the city, drinking sparkling water from the bottle. I was safe, but the guilt was a persistent creature. It gnawed at me as the sky turned purple and then black. I had bought a house, and I had not told my mother. In any other family, this would be a funny anecdote about independence. In the Lewis family, it was a declaration of war. If Diane found out from someone else, from a Facebook post, from a public record search, from a slip of the tongue, she would be devastated. She would weep. She would say I was shutting her out. She would ask what she had done to deserve a daughter who kept secrets. I checked my watch. It was 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. She would be home, probably watching her crime procedurals. I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked out to the porch for better reception. I dialed the number before I could talk myself out of it. Diane answered on the second ring. "Hello, hi." "Mom," I said. "Audrey. Is everything okay?" "You never call on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are my shows." "I know." I said, "I have some news. Good news." There was a pause. The background noise of a siren on the television cut out as she muted it. "Are you engaged?" "Mom, did you get fired?" I said, "Good news." "Well, tell me then. I am on the edge of my seat. I bought a house." I said. The silence on the other end was absolute. It stretched for 5 seconds, then 10. I could hear her breathing. "A house," she repeated. "Where?" "In the city." "How could you afford a house in the city?" "Not in the city," I said. "In Seabrook Cove. It is a small beach house, just a cottage." "Really? I closed on it today." "Seabrook Cove," she said. The way she said it sounded like she was tasting a piece of fruit to see if it was rotten. "That is 2 hours away. Why would you buy a house 2 hours away?" "You are single. Audrey. Who is going to mow the lawn? Who is going to fix the roof when it leaks? I can hire people." "Mom, and I wanted a place to retreat to." "Somewhere quiet." "Quiet," she scoffed. "You have plenty of quiet in that apartment of yours. Too much quiet, if you ask me. That is why you are still single. You isolate yourself." I gripped the railing of the porch, I had expected this, but it still stung. I just wanted to share it with you. I said, I worked hard for this. I saved for 5 years. I know you work hard, she said, her tone softening into that pitying register that was somehow worse than the criticism. You have always been a worker bee, Audrey. Just like your father. But what are you going to do with a whole house all by yourself? I held my breath, waiting for the congratulations. Well, she said, I suppose this solves the problem of August. What problem? The annual family week, she said. We were going to rent that place in the Poconos again, but it smells like wet dog and the stairs are too steep for my knees. We can just use your place. That will save everyone so much money. Marissa has been stressed about the deposit. This is actually a blessing. Can you host us the 3rd week of August like a normal daughter would? My hand tightened on the phone. The annual family week was 7 days of hell where I slept on a pull-out couch, while Marissa and her husband, Ian, took the master bedroom because they needed space. It was 7 days of cooking for 6 people and being told the chicken was dry. Mom, I just got the keys. I said, I do not have furniture. I do not know if I'm ready to host. Oh, stop it, she interrupted. We do not need fancy furniture. We are family. We will bring air mattresses. It will be fun. A beach house. Wait until I tell Marissa. She is going to be so jealous. Or relieved. Probably relieved. Please do not tell Marissa yet, I said, panic flaring in my chest. I want to tell her myself. Too late, Diane said brightly. I am texting her right now. Oh, Audrey, this is finally something exciting. Maybe you will meet a nice doctor in the town. Small towns have doctors, right? I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I just pressed the red button and stared at the screen. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. I paced the length of the porch. It was fine. August was months away. I could come up with an excuse by then. I could say the plumbing was broken. I could say I had rented it out. I had time to build the walls higher. My phone rang. The screen lit up with a photo of my sister, Marissa. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a mimosa, laughing with her head thrown back. It was a photo I had taken of her 3 years ago. I remembered that day. She had made me take the photo 40 times until her neck looked long enough. I stared at the phone. I could let it go to voicemail. I could claim I was driving, but if I didn't answer, she would keep calling. She would call Diane. She would spin a story that I was ignoring them because I thought I was better than them now that I had a beach house. I slid my thumb across the screen. Hello, Marissa. Audrey, she screamed. The volume was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. You sly little fox, Mom just told me. You bought a beach house in Seabrook Cove. Since when are you a tycoon? I am not a tycoon, I said, keeping my voice level. I just saved my bonus checks. It is a fixer-upper. Oh, stop being so humble. It is boring, she said. I looked it up on Zillow based on what Mom said about the street. It is adorable. A little gray box, but adorable. And right near the water, I rubbed my temple. How did she already find it? Mom did not even know the address. Mom said you were on Sanderling Lane, Marissa said, answering my unasked question. There was only one sale there recently. I have skills. Audrey, you know this. I walked back into the living room, feeling the walls shrinking slightly. So, here's the thing, Marissa said, her voice shifting. The screaming excitement dropped into a smooth, conspiratorial purr. This is actually divine timing, like universe-level timing. Why I asked, dread coiling in my stomach, because the girls and I have been trying to plan a getaway for months, and everything is either booked or insanely expensive. We need a reset. Audrey, you know how hard this year has been for me, with the business stress and Ian being, well, Ian Marissa's business was a nebulous consulting firm that seemed to involve a lot of Instagram stories and very few clients. I am sorry you are stressed, I said. But so we are coming this Friday, she announced. I stopped walking. Excuse me, me and the girls. It is a girls' weekend. We were going to go to Cabo, but then Paige had passport issues, and honestly, domestic is so much chicer right now. We will drive up Friday morning. We will bring all the food. You do not have to do a thing, just unlock the door. Marissa, no. I said, no. She laughed. A brittle, high-pitched sound. What do you mean? No, I mean, I just got the keys today. I said, the house is empty. There are no beds. There is no internet. The water heater makes a sound like a dying whale. It is not ready for guests. We do not care about beds. We will bring sleeping bags. It will be like glamping. It will be an adventure. Come on, Audrey, you owe the family a win. Mom has been worried about you. She says you seem depressed. This will be good for you. A housewarming. I'm not depressed, I said, and I'm not ready to host a party. It is not a party, she said, her voice getting sharper. It is a retreat. Just a few close friends. We just need to breathe ocean air and drink wine. Are you really going to make me cancel my plans when you have an empty house sitting there doing nothing? That is so selfish. Audrey, even for you. Even for you. The precision of the insult was dazzling. It implied a history of selfishness that did not exist. I was the one who loaned her money for her car payments. I was the one who babysat her dog when she went to Bali. How many people I asked? The question was a surrender. And I knew it as soon as it left my mouth. 12, she said. 12, Marissa. The house is 1,200 square feet. I have one bathroom. We will make a schedule, she said. The brightness returning instantly now that she sensed victory. It will be fine. Look, we will only stay 2 nights, Friday and Saturday. We leave Sunday morning. We will bring all the groceries. We will respect the neighbors. I promise. Cross my heart. I looked around my empty living room. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that she was a bulldozer in human skin. But the old programming was deep. Keep the peace. Don't be the difficult one. Don't let Mom get upset. 2 nights, I said. My voice sounded hollow. 2 nights, she confirmed, and no parties. Marissa, seriously, this is a quiet neighborhood. The houses are close together. If the police come, I am the one who gets the fine. Audrey, please, we are in our 30s. We are not a sorority. We are going to do face masks and talk about our feelings. You won't even know we are there. And you bring your own bedding. All of it. Done. She sounded triumphant. Oh, this is going to be amazing. You are the best sister. Seriously, I will send you the details. Love you. She hung up before I could retract it. I stood in the center of my dark living room, the silence now feeling heavy and oppressive. I had held the line for exactly 4 minutes. I walked to the kitchen and opened a bottle of wine I had brought. I drank a glass standing over the sink. I told myself it would be okay. It was just one weekend. It would get them off my back. If I gave them this, maybe they would leave me alone for the rest of the summer. My phone pinged. I looked down. I had been added to a group chat. Seabrook Cove Takeover. 14 members, 14, she said 12. That meant Marissa. Plus 12 friends. Plus me. I scrolled through the messages that were already flooding the chat. Marissa Boom. It is official. Beach house secure. My sister is a literal angel. Unknown number. Yes, is there a hot tub? Unknown number. I am bringing the tequila. Do we have ice or should I buy bags? Marissa. Bring ice. Audrey is still setting up, so assume bare bones. Unknown number. Can we do a bonfire on the beach? I want to do a manifestation circle Saturday night. Marissa. Totally. We have a private dock too, so we can do sunset cocktails there. I stared at the screen. A private dock. I did not have a dock. I was 3 streets back from the water. There was a public boardwalk half a mile away, but that was it. I typed a message. Audrey. Hi everyone. Just to clarify, there is no dock. The house is a few blocks from the beach, and please, no bonfires. The town has a strict ban due to the dune grass. I hit send. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Marissa Lowell. Okay, Miss Safety. We will use the public pier. Same vibe. Unknown number. Wait, how many bedrooms? I need a solo room. I snore. Marissa. It's huge. Don't worry. Plenty of space. My stomach dropped. It's huge. I exited the chat and opened my browser. I needed to see what Marissa was telling people. I had a sinking suspicion that this wasn't just a spontaneous trip. Marissa's last-minute plans were usually months in the making. She just waited until the last minute to tell the people she needed favors from. I typed my address into Google, hoping to just see the old Zillow listing. The first result was the Zillow page, marked sold. But the third result made my blood run cold. It was a listing on a site I didn't recognize. https://www.google.com/search Q=Lux weekendswap.com. The headline read, "Charming beachfront getaway. The Driftwood House." The main photo was my house, but it was blurred slightly, like a watercolor filter had been applied. It was clearly my porch, clearly my hydrangeas. I clicked on it. Host M. Lewis. Price $1,200 per night. Description: escape to the Driftwood House, a private sanctuary in exclusive Seabrook Cove. Features wraparound porch, ocean views, and access to private amenities, perfect for bachelorettes, retreats, and girls' getaways. Sleeps 14. I stared at the price. $1,200 a night. Marissa wasn't just bringing friends. She was charging them. I felt a wave of nausea. I called Nolan Price immediately. It was late, past 8, but he picked up on the first ring. Audrey. Is something wrong with the house? Did the water heater die? No. Nolan? The house is fine. I need to ask you something weird. Okay. Have you ever heard of a site called Lux Weekend Swap? He hesitated. Yeah, I know it. It is. It is not for the general public. It is a private invite-only circle. Mostly for people trying to bypass the short-term rental taxes and regulations. Why I found my house on it, I said. What my sister listed it. It says it sleeps 14. It says it is $1,200 a night. There was a long silence on the line. Audrey, Nolan said carefully, that is a violation of your mortgage terms if you claim this as a primary residence, which you did. I know, I whispered, and if she is charging that kind of money, Audrey, that is a commercial enterprise in a residential zone. Seabrook Cove is incredibly strict about unpermitted rentals. If the neighbors report you, the fines start at $5,000. My hand was shaking. She told me it was just friends. She said they needed a reset. She is selling tickets, Audrey. I closed my eyes. I could see Marissa's face, the way she had said, "You owe the family a win." She had been planning this before I even signed the papers. She must have known I was looking. She must have been tracking the sale. What do I do? I asked. You can shut it down, Nolan said. Call the site. Tell them it is fraudulent. Kick her out before she arrives. I thought about it. I thought about the explosion that would cause, Diane crying, Marissa screaming that I was ruining her reputation, the family rift that would never heal because I chose money over sisterhood. But if I let them come, I can't stop them this Friday. I said, it is too late. She is already mobilized. But Nolan, she is lying to them. She is promising a dock. She is promising bedrooms that don't exist. Then she is going to have a lot of angry customers. Nolan said, and they are going to be angry at you, because your name is on the deed. I hung up. I sat on the floor of my empty kitchen, the light of the phone illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I was not going to panic. Panic was what Marissa wanted. Panic made me pliable. Panic made me say, fine, just handle it. I stood up. I walked to the counter where I had left a fresh notebook I bought for house projects. I picked up a pen. I opened the notebook to the first page. I wrote the date, May 14th. Event, Marissa announces arrival with 12 guests. Claim Girls Weekend Reset. Reality commercial rental listed on Lux Weekend Swap for $1,200 per night. Lie private dock. Sleeps 14. Action screenshotting all texts. Screenshotting the listing. Downloading the group chat log. I wrote it all down. My handwriting was steady. I went to my phone and took screenshots of the listing. I captured the Host M. Lewis line. I captured the price. I captured the group chat where she claimed it was just a hangout. I was not going to stop her from coming. I couldn't. Not without detonating a nuclear bomb in my family that I wasn't ready to survive yet. But I wasn't going to be her victim, either. I looked at the note from the storage bench again. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. Marissa had already built the set. She had sold the tickets. She was coming to perform. I closed the notebook. I can be kind. I whispered to the empty room. Without being available, I would let them come. I would let them see the truth of the house, the smallness, the lack of luxury, the single bathroom. I would let Marissa explain why there was no dock. I would let her explain why they were sleeping on the floor when they had paid for a sanctuary. I would be the perfect hostess. And I would write down every single thing that happened. I turned off the kitchen light and went upstairs to my bedroom. Unrolling my sleeping bag on the floor. The floorboards were hard, but the house held me. It was solid. It was mine. And for the next 2 days, before the invasion, it would be silent. Friday arrived with the heaviness of an approaching storm front. The sky was a bruised purple over the Atlantic, the wind picking up enough to rattle the loose pane in the kitchen window I had meant to fix. I spent the afternoon pacing the length of my living room, straightening throw pillows that did not need straightening and checking the bathroom hand towels for the 4th time. I felt like a curator in a museum that was about to be looted. My notebook sat on the counter, closed but accessible. I had already logged the time of their expected arrival, 4 in the afternoon, and the time it actually was, 6 in the evening. The delay was classic Marissa. It was a power move disguised as chaos. By keeping me waiting, she ensured that by the time she arrived, I would be so relieved to see them that I would forget to be angry, but I was not relieved. I was calcifying. At 10 minutes past 6, the silence of Sanderling Lane was shattered. It did not start with a knock, but with the aggressive hum of engines. I looked out the front window and watched a convoy of 4 large SUVs pull up to the curb. They parked haphazardly, 2 of them partially blocking the driveway of the house across the street, their hazard lights flashing in the dusk like a warning. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch, just as the doors of the vehicles flew open. It was not 12 people. I counted them as they spilled out onto the gravel, laughing and stretching, their voices instantly dominating the quiet air. There was Marissa, wearing a white linen jumpsuit that looked expensive and impractical. There were the 12 friends she had mentioned. A mix of women I vaguely recognized from her Instagram stories, and a few men who looked like they had been dragged along to carry coolers. And then there were 2 more. 2 women I had never seen before, dragging rolling suitcases that looked heavy enough to contain bricks. 15 people, plus me. 16 people in a 1,200-square-foot cottage with 1 bathroom and a septic tank that had not been pumped since the 90s. Marissa spotted me on the porch. She threw her arms up in a gesture of triumph. "We made it," she screamed. She ran up the stairs, bypassing my stiff posture, to pull me into a hug that smelled of expensive perfume and highway coffee. Behind her, the invasion began. It was a physical wave. Suitcases were being hauled up my steps, scraping against the fresh paint. Coolers were being thudded down onto my porch decking. "Marissa," I said, pulling back. "You said 12. Oh, don't start counting heads already," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "These are the add-ons, Lena and Sarah. They were having a crisis, and I couldn't just leave them in the city. You know how I am. I am a helper." She turned to the group, clapping her hands. "Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Driftwood Shoes off at the door. But just dump your bags in the main hall for now until we assign rooms." Assign rooms. I thought there were 2 bedrooms. One was mine. One was a guest room with 2 twin beds I had bought yesterday from a thrift store. I watched, paralyzed, as 15 strangers walked into my sanctuary. They did not knock. They did not introduce themselves to me. They flowed past me like water around a rock. "Hi, I'm Audrey," I said to a man carrying a case of beer. He didn't even make eye contact. He just nodded and said, "Chill, bro," before marching into my kitchen and setting the wet cardboard box directly onto the pine dining table I had just oiled. I followed them inside. The transformation was instantaneous. My quiet, empty space was suddenly filled with the visual noise of other people's lives. Designer handbags were tossed onto my sofa. A yoga mat was unrolled in the middle of the hallway. Someone had already located the Bluetooth capability of the soundbar I had installed for movie nights. And a heavy, thumping bass line began to shake the floorboards. I walked into the kitchen to find 3 women opening my cupboards. "Do we have wine glasses?" one asked, not looking at me. "They are in the top left," I said, "and please use coasters on the wood tables." She looked at me then, her eyes scanning me up and down. I was wearing jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt. She was wearing a silk caftan. "Oh, are you the property manager?" she asked. "Marissa said the owner might stop by." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I am the owner." I said, "I am Marissa's sister." "Oh," she laughed, but there was no apology in it. "My bad. You just have that helpful vibe. Where's the ice?" I pointed to the freezer. My voice stuck in my throat. I found Marissa in the living room. She was standing in the center of the rug, holding court. She was pointing to the fireplace, then to the window, gesturing grandly. "We can move this couch back against the wall to open up the dance floor," she was saying. "And we will set up the bar station over there by the window for the natural light." "Marissa," I said. She turned, her smile tightening just a fraction. "Audrey." "Isn't it cute?" I told them it was cozy. Everyone loves a cozy vibe. "You cannot move the furniture," I said. "And who are these people?" One of them thought I was the property manager. She rolled her eyes, stepping closer to me and lowering her voice. "Don't be sensitive. They are just excited. And technically, you are managing the property this weekend. Aren't you? Since you are the only one who knows how to work the weird toilet, I am not managing anything." I hisses. "I am hosting. There is a difference." Right, hosting." She patted my arm. "Look, just relax. Go have a drink. Let me handle the vibe. You are stressing everyone out with your face." My face. "You are doing that thing," she said. "That pinch thing you do when you are judging people. Just stop. Go be a fun sister for once." Before I could respond, a loud knock rattled the front door. The music was already loud enough that half the room didn't hear it, but I heard it. I knew that knock. It was a localized, precise knock. I turned to the door, but Marissa beat me to it. She swung it open wide. Standing there was Evie Mercer. Evie was 60 years old, the president of the local garden club, and the owner of the pristine Victorian house next door. She was wearing a quilted vest and a look of polite concern that I knew could turn into a noise complaint call to the police within 3 minutes. "Hi there," Evie said, peering around Marissa's shoulder at the chaos in my hallway. "I just wanted to check in. I saw all the cars, and the music is a bit spirited." Marissa didn't blink. She didn't apologize. Instead, she beamed. "You must be the neighbor. Audrey told me about you. Evie, right? The one with the prize-winning hydrangeas." Evie blinked, thrown off balance. "Well, I do have hydrangeas. Yes, I am Marissa, Audrey's sister. We are just so excited to be here, honestly. We are so lucky to have this place for all of us. It has been a dream of our family to finally have a spot in the cove." She stepped out onto the porch, effectively blocking Evie's view of the man currently standing on my coffee table trying to hang a string of lights. "I know we are a big group," Marissa continued, her voice dripping with charm. "We are just doing a little family reunion, a girls' wellness retreat. Really, very low-key. We will keep it down. I promise. We just got here, and everyone is just shaking off the city energy. You know how it is." Evie softened. "I watched it happen. It was like watching a snake hypnotize a rabbit." "Oh, a family reunion," Evie said. "That is nice. Audrey didn't mention her family was so large." "We are a big, loud, happy clan," Marissa said, "and we respect the neighborhood. In fact, we were hoping to ask you for some gardening tips tomorrow. Audrey says your soil pH balance is legendary." Evie actually blushed. "Well, it is all about the lime," she said. "I will tell the girls to turn down the bass." Marissa said, "Thank you for being so welcoming. It means the world to us." Marissa closed the door gently and turned back to me. The smile vanished instantly. "See," she whispered, "handled. You just have to be nice to people." "Audrey, it is not rocket science." She claimed ownership. I thought, lucky to have this place for all of us. She erased my name from the deed in 3 sentences. I retreated to the kitchen. I needed water. I needed a lock on my door. The kitchen was now a disaster zone. There were open bags of chips on the counter, a puddle of something sticky on the floor, and a line of people waiting for the bathroom. I squeezed past a woman in a bikini top. It was 55 degrees outside and grabbed a glass. As I drank, I noticed a woman near the back door. She was not drinking. She was holding her phone up, taking panoramic photos of the breakfast nook. Then she crouched down and took a close-up of the flooring. She stood up, took a tape measure out of her purse, and began measuring the width of the sliding glass door. I put my glass down. "Excuse me," I said. The woman jumped. She was blonde, sharp-featured, wearing a blazer over her jeans. "Oh, hi. What are you doing?" I asked. She hesitated, glancing around to see if Marissa was nearby. "Oh, nothing. Just, Marissa said this place might be available for my cousin's engagement weekend in September. I just wanted to see if the door was wide enough for a catering load-in." The air left my lungs. "September?" I asked. "Yeah. She said she could give us a friends and family rate if we booked early." "Is the lighting in here dimmable?" I did not answer her. I turned on my heel and marched back into the living room. I found Marissa pouring vodka into red plastic cups. I grabbed her by the elbow. Harder than I meant to. Ouch. "Audrey, what is your problem?" "Kitchen," I said. "Now?" I dragged her into the small pantry off the kitchen, the only room with a door that wasn't currently occupied by a stranger. I shut the door, plunging us into semi-darkness, lit only by the sliver of light under the frame. "You are renting out my house for September?" I asked, my voice trembling. Marissa sighed, leaning back against the shelves of canned goods. "Oh my God, Paige has a big mouth. It was just an idea." "Audrey," she was measuring the door for catering. Marissa: "That is not an idea. That is a quote. I was just dreaming," she said, throwing her hands up. She asked if I knew any venues, and I said, "Well, my sister has this cute place. Maybe we could work something out. I was trying to get you business. You should be thanking me. You have a mortgage to pay. Don't you?" "I do not want a venue business," I shouted, then lowered my voice as I remembered the thin walls. "I want a home. This is my home. You are treating it like a banquet hall. You are making it weird." Marissa said, her voice dropping into that cold, disappointed tone that always made me feel 5 years old. "You are embarrassing me out there. Everyone is asking why you are skulking around like a ghost. Just stop. It was a joke. I haven't taken any money for September. But you took money for this weekend, didn't you?" She didn't flinch. "We pooled costs." "Audrey, that is what friends do. We chipped in for food and gas. Why are you so obsessed with money? It is tacky." She opened the pantry door. "Now, if you are done interrogating me, I have guests to attend to. Guests who are actually fun." She walked out. I stayed in the pantry for a long time. I took out my phone. I took a photo of the pantry shelf where she had been leaning, just to mark the moment. Seen the pantry, lie. Just dreaming, fat guest, measuring for catering. Gaslight. You are making it weird. I wrote it down in my head, adding it to the log. I eventually emerged because I needed to use the bathroom. The line was 3 people deep. I walked past them, ignored their stares, and went upstairs to my bedroom. I had put a key lock on my bedroom door the day I bought the house. It was the only boundary I had left. I unlocked it and slipped inside. My room was small, with a sloped ceiling and a window that looked out over the driveway. I had barely furnished it, just a mattress on a frame and a dresser. I sat on the bed, downstairs. The music got louder. Someone shrieked with laughter. I heard the crash of something glass breaking. "Oops," someone yelled. No one came to tell me. No one came to apologize. I lay down, staring at the ceiling. I could hear every footstep, every scrape of a chair. I felt like a squatter in my own life. I eventually drifted into a restless sleep, waking up every hour to the sound of doors slamming or the toilet flushing. The party didn't stop until 3 in the morning. When I woke up, the sun was blazing through the window. It was 8 o'clock. The house was silent. I got up, dressed, and went downstairs. The living room looked like a battlefield. There were red cups everywhere. A throw blanket was stained with something dark wine or salsa. The air smelled of stale beer and expensive perfume. I walked to the kitchen. The sink was piled high with dirty dishes. I went to make coffee. Reaching for the bag of artisanal beans I had treated myself to, they were gone, in the trash. I found the empty bag. They had used the entire pound in one night. I opened the fridge. A bottle of vintage Sauvignon Blanc I had been saving for my birthday tucked way in the back. Behind the kale was gone. I felt a prick of tears. It wasn't the wine, it was the entitlement. The assumption that everything I owned was up for grabs. I looked at the counter where I kept a small ceramic bowl for odds and ends. Yesterday, I had put $100 cash in an envelope in there, meant for the handyman coming on Monday to fix the porch step. The envelope was gone. I checked the floor. I checked the trash. Gone. My heart started to race. I looked up at the floating shelf above the breakfast nook. My father's compass. It was an old brass naval compass he had given me when I graduated college. "So you never lose your true north," he had said. It wasn't valuable, but it was the only thing of his I had in the house. The shelf was empty. I ran to the living room. I checked the coffee table. I checked the mantel. It wasn't there. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I started lifting cushions. I looked under the sofa. Morning, sunshine. I spun around. Marissa was standing in the hallway, wearing a silk robe and sunglasses. She held a mug of coffee, my coffee. "Where is it?" I asked. "Where is what?" "You are so intense in the morning." My compass, Dad's compass. It was on the shelf. "Oh, that old thing," Marissa yawned. "I think Paige moved it. She said it was clashing with the tablescape she wanted to do for brunch photos. Check the junk drawer." I ripped open the junk drawer. It wasn't there. "Marissa, it is not here." "And where is the cash envelope?" "Cash envelope." She laughed. "Who uses cash? You are so archaic. Look, relax. Things get moved around. It will turn up. Do not accuse my friends of stealing. It is rude." She walked past me to the fridge. I stood there, shaking. It wasn't just stuff. It was a systematic dismantling of my presence. They were erasing me, object by object. A knock at the door saved me from screaming. I opened it to find Tessa. My best friend looked like a lifeline. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, holding 2 coffees from the local bakery. She looked past me into the house, her eyes widening. "Holy hell," she whispered. "Come in," I said. "Please." Tessa stepped inside, navigating the obstacle course of shoes. We went to the porch, the only place that felt semi-safe, though even there, someone had left a wet towel on the railing. I told Tessa everything, the listing, the measuring, the missing compass. She listened, her face growing tighter and tighter. "Audrey," she said quietly, "this isn't a visit. It is an occupation. I know. You have to kick them out. I can't." I said, "If I kick them out now, Marissa will spin it. She will tell Mom I had a mental breakdown. She will tell everyone I left 12 women stranded on the street. I have to wait until they leave tomorrow. I have to survive 24 more hours." We sat there for a while, drinking the coffee she brought. Inside, the house began to wake up. I could hear them. Then, the sliding door opened. Marissa and 3 of her friends came out. They didn't acknowledge me or Tessa. They walked right past us to the lawn. Marissa was telling a story, so I told her, "You cannot just wear beige your whole life. But you know Audrey, she is terrified of color, just like she is terrified of fun." The friends laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, exactly. It was a dismissive laugh, the kind of laugh you give a child who has said something silly. She is just so anxious. Marissa continued, "I have to manage her constantly. It is exhausting. Honestly, that is why I planned this weekend, to help her loosen up." Tessa looked at me. I stared at my coffee cup. I stood up. I'm going to get more sugar, I said. I walked back into the kitchen. I needed to be away from their voices. I went to the fridge to get the creamer. That was when I saw it. Taped to the front of the stainless steel refrigerator was a piece of paper. It hadn't been there last night. It was a printed sheet, laminated in a cheap plastic sleeve. The Driftwood House, Guest Rules. I leaned closer, reading it. 1. Checkout is 10 o'clock a.m. sharp. 2. Please strip all beds and start a load of laundry. 3. No glass on the deck. 4. Quiet hours begin at 11 p.m. 5. Owner is not responsible for lost or stolen items. And at the bottom, centered and bold, for incidentals and weekend contributions. Please scan here. There was a large QR code. I stared at it. I had not made this sign. I did not own a laminator. I pulled out my phone. My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped it. I opened the camera app and scanned the code. A link popped up. I clicked it. It took me to a payment page. The header image was a photo of me and Marissa from 5 years ago. Looking happy. Seabrook Cove Weekend Fund Organizer, Marissa Lewis, description pooling funds for the best girls' weekend ever, covers house rental, food, drinks, and cleaning fees. I scrolled down. There was a list of recent donations. Paige R., $500. Lena S., $450 anonymous, $500. The total collected sat at the top in a bright green bubble, $6,200. $6,200. She wasn't just covering costs. She was making a profit. She was charging them rent, and she was using my face to do it. I looked up from the phone. The kitchen was empty, but the noise from the porch drifted in. Marissa's laugh rose above the rest, bright and sharp. Owner not responsible for lost items. She was right. I wasn't responsible. But I was about to be. I took a photo of the sign. I took a screenshot of the payment page. I slipped the phone into my pocket. The trembling in my hands stopped. It was replaced by a cold, heavy weight in my chest. It was the feeling of a bridge burning, the structure finally collapsing into the water. I walked out to the porch. Tessa looked up at me. She saw my face, what she mouthed. I didn't answer. I looked at Marissa, who was midway through a mimosa toast. Marissa, I said. She turned, smiling that dazzling fake smile. Hey, want a mimosa? I need to talk to you. I said. My voice was very quiet, but it cut through the wind. Now. She frowned. We are having a moment. Now. I turned and walked back inside, not waiting to see if she followed. I knew she would. Curiosity was her greatest weakness. I stood by the fridge, my hand resting next to the laminated sign. Marissa walked in, looking annoyed. What is it? Audrey. Can't it wait until I pointed to the sign? What is this? I asked. She glanced at it. Oh, that I just whipped it up this morning. I brought my portable printer. Just wanted to keep things organized. You know, boundaries. I thought you liked boundaries. I pointed to the QR code. And this, she paused. A flicker of something caution-fear crossed her eyes. But it was gone in an instant. It is just a kitty, she said, for groceries and gas. $6,000 in gas, I asked. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Okay, so I added a little administrative fee. For the planning, I did all the work. Audrey, I organized the cars, the food, the invites. That is time. Time is money. You are charging them rent. I said, you are charging them to stay in my house. I am charging for the experience. She hissed. You are profiting off me. You are selling me. I am helping you, she whispered furiously. Do you think this house pays for itself? I was going to give you a cut. I was going to surprise you with a check for the mortgage. I am trying to save you from drowning in this money pit. And you are looking at me like I am a criminal. I am not drowning. I said, and I don't want your cut. Marissa laughed. A cruel, short sound. You always want to be the martyr. St. Audrey, suffering in silence. Well, guess what? No one cares. They are having a great time. They are happy to pay. Why do you have to ruin it? She reached out and ripped the sign off the fridge. There. Happy it is gone. Now stop being dramatic and let me finish my toast. She crumbled the paper and threw it in the trash can on top of the coffee grounds. She walked out. I stood there for a full minute. Then I walked to the trash can. I reached in and pulled out the crumpled ball of paper. I smoothed it out on the counter. The QR code was crinkled, but legible. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Right next to the notebook, Tessa walked into the kitchen. She had heard. Audrey, she asked. I looked at her. I am not the anxious little sister anymore. I said. Tessa nodded slowly. No, you are not. I picked up the sponge and started washing the dishes. I washed them slowly, methodically. I was not cleaning for them. I was cleaning because I needed clear surfaces. I needed a clear surface for what I was going to do next. The crumpled ball of paper in my pocket felt heavy, like a stone I was carrying to a glass house fight. I waited until the kitchen cleared out. The morning rush for coffee and bagels had subsided, and most of the group had migrated to the deck to take selfies against the backdrop of the dunes. The house was momentarily quiet, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant bass of a Bluetooth speaker playing something upbeat and aggressive. I found Marissa in the living room. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by tote bags, organizing what looked like swag bags. She was stuffing travel-sized sunscreens and lip balms into canvas pouches stamped with a gold palm tree logo. Marissa, I said. She didn't look up. She kept stuffing the pouches, her movements rhythmic and practiced. Hey, Odd, can you grab me the scissors? I have a loose thread on this tote. I did not grab the scissors. Instead, I pulled the crumpled paper from my pocket, flattened it against my thigh, and held it out. We need to talk about the QR code, I said, and the $6,200 in the account attached to it. Marissa finally stopped. She set the tote bag down and looked at me with a sigh that suggested I was interrupting a heart surgery rather than a swag bag assembly. Are you still on that? She asked. I told you. I took the sign down. It is done. The sign is down. But the money is still in your account. I said, I saw the donor list. Marissa, Paige paid $500. Lena paid $450. You are collecting money for a house you do not own, for expenses you did not incur. She stood up then, brushing lint from her white linen pants. She crossed her arms, her face settling into a mask of pitying patience. Audrey, you are being so dramatic about a little organization. Do you have any idea how much effort goes into coordinating 15 women? I have been planning this for 3 months. The emails, the grocery runs, the gas, the sheer mental load. That money isn't profit. It is a management fee. It is rent, I said, keeping my voice low. You listed the house on a swap site for $1,200 a night. That is not a management fee. That is a commercial transaction. And you are doing it behind my back. I did not do it behind your back, she insisted, her voice rising just enough to be heard if anyone walked by, but quiet enough to sound reasonable. I was going to surprise you. I was going to hand you a check at the end of the weekend and say, look, I helped, but you are so suspicious, so tightly wound, that you ruined the surprise. You were not going to give me a check. I said, I know you. Marissa, you were going to use that money to pay off your own debts. Her eyes flashed. That was the crack in the armor. I had hit a nerve. My debts are none of your business, she hissed. They are my business when you are using my property to service them. She stepped closer, invading my personal space. The smell of her expensive perfume was cloying. You know, Mom is right about you, she said softly. You get a little bit of power, a little bit of money, and you turn into a tyrant. You are treating this family like we are leeches. We are your blood. Audrey, I am trying to create a beautiful memory for everyone, and you are standing here obsessing over a spreadsheet. It is sad. Really? She turned and walked away, grabbing a stack of the canvas pouches. I am going to the beach. She threw over her shoulder. Try not to call the police on us for breathing too loud while I'm gone. I stood in the living room, shaking. It was her superpower. She could take a situation where she was objectively, legally in the wrong, and within 2 minutes, twist the narrative until I felt like the villain. She weaponized emotion against logic. I went back to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. My hands were trembling as I stood at the sink, staring out at the overgrown hydrangea bush. The sliding door opened. It was Paige Rudd. Paige was one of the women I remembered from Marissa's college days. She was softer than the others, less jagged edges. She was holding a dirty plate, looking hesitant. "Hey, Audrey," she said, "is the dishwasher safe to load?" "Yes," I said. "Just don't block the sprayer arm." She nodded and began slotting the plate into the rack. She didn't leave immediately. She lingered. Wiping her hands on a towel, "Audrey," she asked. "Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for letting us stay here. It is really generous of you, especially with the situation." "The situation?" I asked. Paige looked down at her feet. "You know, with the renovation costs. Marissa told us about the dry rot you found in the foundation. That is why we were all happy to chip in. I mean, $500 is a lot, but if it helps you save the house, it is worth it." I froze. "The dry rot," I repeated. "Yeah," Paige said, looking up. "Marissa sent out that email explaining that you were underwater on the repairs and that this weekend was a way for us to help you out without making it look like charity. That is why we paid the weekend fund, to help you fix the foundation." The room seemed to tilt. "There is no dry rot," I said. My voice sounded very far away. "The foundation is fine." Paige's face went slack. Her eyes widened. "What I bought the house 3 days ago," I said. "The inspection was clean. There is no dry rot. There are no repairs." Paige stared at me. Her mouth opened and closed. But I sent $500. Lena sent $400. We all did. Marissa said you were too proud to ask, so we should just pay the fund and she would handle the contractor." I closed my eyes. It was worse than I thought. She wasn't just stealing. She was using my pride as the hook. She had painted a picture of me as the desperate, failing sister who needed saving. And she was the benevolent hero rallying the troops. "She lied to you." "Paige," I said, "the money isn't for a contractor. It is in her personal account." Paige looked like she was going to be sick. She leaned back against the counter, her hand going to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. I felt so good about helping. I thought I was being a good friend." "You are a good friend," I said gently. "You just have the wrong friend." Paige looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. She looked mortified, but beneath the embarrassment, I saw the dawn of anger. "I have to go," she said abruptly. "I need to make a phone call." She hurried out of the kitchen, leaving the sliding door half open. I stood there, listening to the wind whistle through the gap. I had the truth now. I had the confirmation, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a violation. Marissa had sold my vulnerability. She had marketed a fake version of my life to elicit sympathy and cash. My phone rang. It was Diane. I stared at the screen. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that Marissa had already gotten to her. Marissa had texted her from the beach, spinning the story before I could even open my mouth. I answered. "Hello, Mom, Audrey," Diane said. Her voice was tight, the tone she used when she was trying to be patient with a difficult child. "Marissa just texted me. She sounds very upset." "Does she?" I asked. "She says you are hovering." "Audrey, she says you are following people around and asking about money and making everyone feel uncomfortable. Why are you doing this?" "I am not hovering." I said, "I am living in my own house, and I asked about the money because Marissa is charging her friends to stay here and telling them it is for my foundation repairs." There was a pause. "Well," Diane said, her tone shifting from accusatory to dismissive. "Is that so bad?" "Excuse me, Marissa is entrepreneurial. Audrey, you know that. She is just trying to be helpful. Maybe she thought if she collected some money, she could help you with the mortgage. You did just spend your life savings. You are probably cash poor. She is looking out for you. She is lying to people. Mom, she told them I have dry rot. She's collecting thousands of dollars and keeping it." Diane sighed, a long, ragged sound that was meant to convey how exhausting I was. Money, money, money. That is all you care about lately. You finally get this beautiful house, a blessing meant to be shared, and instead of enjoying your sister's company, you are auditing her. I am not auditing her. I am stopping her from running a scam in my living room. Stop using that word, Diane snapped. Scam. It is such an ugly word. Marissa is going through a hard time. Did you know Ian has cut off her credit cards? I did not know that. I said, well, he did. She is struggling. Audrey, she needs this weekend. She needs to feel successful. She needs to be the leader. Can't you just give her that? You have the house. You have the steady job. You have everything. Can't you just let her have the weekend? Be the bigger person? I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. The bigger person, that was the mantra of the Lewis family. Be the bigger person always meant, let Marissa do whatever she wants, because she is too fragile to handle consequences. I am done being the bigger person. Mom, I said, I am being the person who owns the house. I am very disappointed in you. Diane said, you are becoming hard. Audrey, hard-hearted. I hung up. I put the phone down on the counter. I felt cold. Despite the humidity of the day, she steals narratives. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. Marissa didn't just take the compass or the cash. She took the story, in her version. I was the charity case, and she was the savior. In Diane's version, I was the bully, and Marissa was the victim. I walked into the living room. The swag bags were still there. I needed to know the extent of it. I needed to know how deep the lie went. I walked over to the side table where Marissa had set up her command center. Her laptop was closed, but the portable printer she had brought was sitting there, its power light blinking green. I looked at the paper tray. There was a stack of fresh paper, but underneath the blank sheets, there was a folder, a glossy navy blue presentation folder. I pulled it out. The label on the front read, Seabrook Cove Proposal. Q3. I opened it. The first page was a mission statement, the Driftwood Experience, a micro-event destination, curated by Marissa Lewis Lifestyle. I turned the page. There were photos. Not just the photos from the listing, but photos of me. There was a picture of me painting the deck, taken yesterday without my knowledge. The caption read, Dedicated on-site maintenance staff. I turned the page. Projected revenue Phase 1 weekend retreats, May to August. Est $30,000. Phase 2, wedding season September to October. Est $50,000. Phase 3, holiday pop-ups. Est $20,000. And then, the line that made my stomach bottom out. Cost structure venue rental $0. Leveraging family-owned asset to eliminate overhead, staffing volunteer/family. Profit margin 90%. She had a business plan. She had a logo. She had a projected income of $100,000 for the year. She hadn't just crashed my weekend. She had annexed my life. She had waited until the deed was recorded, until the ink was dry, and then she had launched her business on the back of my credit score. I heard footsteps on the porch. I shoved the folder back into the paper tray. Under the blank sheets. My phone buzzed again. It wasn't Diane this time. It was Nolan Price. I picked it up, my voice shaky. Nolan Audrey, he said. His voice was serious. I am at the post office. I know the postmaster here. Old Mr. Henderson. We were chatting about your closing. Okay. He mentioned he got a change of address form for you yesterday. I frowned. I didn't file a change of address yet. I was going to do it next week. I know, Nolan said. That is why he flagged it. He thought it was odd because the signature didn't match the one on the deed. And it wasn't a change for you. It was a change adding a name to your address. Adding a name. Yeah. Someone tried to register Marissa Lewis and Lewis Lifestyle LLC to 424 Sanderling Lane. The room spun. Did it go through? I asked. No, Nolan said. Henderson rejected it because he knows you. But Audrey, this is fraud. Attempting to divert mail or establish residency without owner consent. That is a federal offense. She is trying to establish tenancy, I whispered. If she gets mail here, if she has a business registered here, then it becomes a civil matter to get her out. Not a criminal one. Nolan finished. She is digging in. Audrey, she is trying to create a paper trail that says she lives there. Thank you. Nolan, I said. Thank you for telling me. I hung up. I looked at the printer. I looked at the swag bags. I looked at the walls of my house. They didn't feel like walls anymore. They felt like chess pieces. I had been playing defense. I had been trying to survive the weekend. But Marissa wasn't playing for the weekend. She was playing for the title. I went upstairs to my room. I locked the door. I sat on my bed and took a deep breath. The panic was there, fluttering in my throat like a trapped bird. But I swallowed it down. Panic was useless. Panic was what Marissa expected. She expected me to scream, to cry, to call Mom. I was not going to scream. I opened my laptop. I ordered a camera, a small, wireless Wise Cam. I paid for overnight early morning delivery. Then I went to my closet. I took the small safe I had brought for my documents, my passport, my birth certificate, the deed. I put the compass number. The compass was gone. I put my jewelry in it. I put my spare car key in it. I locked it. Then I opened the group chat. Seabrook Cove Takeover. Marissa had posted a photo of the group on the beach. Living our best lives, blessed sisters. I didn't react to the photo. I didn't use an angry emoji. I typed a message. Audrey, hi everyone. Quick question. I am reconciling the household accounts for the renovation budget. Did anyone receive a receipt for their contributions to the weekend fund? I need to track the donations for tax purposes. I hit send. It was a polite grenade. I waited. 2 minutes later, a reply from unknown number, who I now knew was Lena. Lena, I didn't get a receipt, but I have the Venmo confirmation. Do you want a screenshot, Audrey? Yes. Please. Thank you. Lena, that helps me understand the budget for the foundation repairs. 3 dots appeared. Marissa was typing. Marissa, Audrey, stop bothering the guests with admin stuff. We are on vacay. I will handle the receipts later. Audrey, no problem. I just want to make sure everyone knows where their money is going. Since it is a significant amount, I want to be transparent. I put the phone down. I wasn't accusing her. I was just turning on the light. I went downstairs. I didn't hide in my room. I went to the kitchen and started making a salad for lunch. I chopped vegetables with precise, loud chops. The group started trickling back in from the beach. They were sunburned and loud. When they saw me, the volume dropped. I saw them glancing at each other. I saw Lena showing her phone to another girl. Marissa came in last. She looked furious. Her face was flushed, and not just from the sun. She walked straight up to me, grabbing my arm. Stop it, she hissed. Stop what I asked. Slicing a cucumber. Stop texting the group. You are making me look incompetent. I am just organizing. Marissa, I said, using her own words, I am just being helpful. She let go of my arm. You are having a breakdown, she said loud enough for the room to hear. Everyone, I am so sorry. Audrey is she is going through a lot. She is really fragile right now. The room went silent. I looked at her. I didn't yell. I am fine. Marissa, I said calmly, I am just wondering why you tried to change your mailing address to my house yesterday. Marissa froze. For a second, the mask slipped. Pure, unadulterated panic flashed in her eyes. I didn't. That was a mistake. She stammered. It was an autofill error on a form. An autofill error that included an LLC name, I asked. You are crazy, she said. She laughed, but it sounded like glass breaking. You are actually paranoid. Guys, she is hallucinating. I think she needs to lie down. She turned to the group, desperate to regain control. Let's go to the patio. I will make margaritas. Let's get away from this negative energy. She herded them out like sheep, but not everyone moved instantly. Paige lingered. Lena lingered. They looked at me, then at Marissa. They were confused. The narrative was fracturing. As they walked out the door, I heard one of the women I didn't see who whispered to her friend, God, this is so awkward. Why is she so possessive? It is just a house. Don't be weird. It is just a house. I stood there, the knife in my hand, the cucumber half sliced. It wasn't just a house. If I let Marissa take this, she wouldn't stop. She would take the summer, then the fall. She would take the guest room. She would take the address. She would take my credit, my reputation, and my peace. I wasn't defending four walls and a roof. I was defending the right to exist without permission. I was defending the fact that I was 33 years old and I did not owe my life to my sister. I put the knife down. I went to the closet under the stairs. I found the toolbox I had bought. I took out a screwdriver. I walked to the front door. I was going to install the camera, but first, I was going to do something else. I walked to the locked storage bench on the porch. The group was on the back patio, the other side of the house. They couldn't see me. I opened the bench. I took out the beach chairs. I took out the umbrella. And then I saw it. Wedged in the back, behind the lining, a tan envelope. It wasn't the note from Mrs. Gable. It was different, thicker. I pulled it out. It was sealed. It had no name on it. I hesitated. It could be Mrs. Gable's. But then I saw the return address on the back corner, stamped in faint red ink. Superior Court of New York. Civil Division. And below that, handwritten in pencil, "Hide this. It wasn't Mrs. Gable's." I looked at the handwriting. It was Marissa's. I didn't open it. I didn't need to read it to know that it was bad. You don't hide court documents in your sister's porch bench unless you are running from something that is about to catch you. I put the envelope back, exactly where I found it. I locked the bench. I stood up. The wind whipped my hair across my face. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. The play was entering the third act, and I just found the prop that was going to bring the curtain down. I walked back inside. I went to the group chat one more time. Audrey. Just a heads up, for insurance purposes, I am installing a security camera in the entryway and living room hallway this afternoon. It will be recording. I watched the phone. Marissa. You are psychotic, Audrey. I am liable. I put the phone in my pocket. Let them call me weird. Let them call me crazy. I was the one with the keys. And now, I was the one with the leverage. I retreated to the sanctuary of my car to make the call. The interior of the gray sedan was the only place in Seabrook Cove where I felt I had total jurisdiction. The rain had not started yet, but the sky was the color of a fresh bruise, heavy and low. I dialed the number for Sloane Becker. She was a local attorney recommended by Nolan Price, a woman who reportedly ate summer tourists for breakfast and specialized in property disputes. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was raspier than I expected, like she had spent the morning arguing with a judge. Sloane Becker. Hi, this is Audrey Lewis. I said, Nolan Price gave me your number. Audrey, the woman with the invasion on Sanderling Lane. Nolan briefed me. You have 15 people in a 2-bedroom cottage and a sister running a boutique hotel out of your living room. That sums it up. I said, listen to me carefully. Audrey, Sloane said, I could hear the click of a pen. You are in a precarious position, if you physically throw them out. And your sister has established any kind of residency claim, even a fake one like receiving mail. The police might view it as a civil domestic dispute and refuse to intervene. You do not want the police there. It escalates the narrative she is already building against you. So I just let them stay, I asked, gripping the steering wheel. For now, yes. But you kill the business model. You strip the asset. How written notice, Sloane said. Verbal warnings vanish into thin air. You need a paper trail. Send a text or an email to the entire group. State clearly that this is a private residence, that no commercial activity is permitted, and that you are revoking authorization for any third-party payments. You need to make it clear that they are guests of a private host, not customers of a venue. If money changed hands, that is between them and your sister. But you need to formally distance yourself from the transaction. And the photography, I asked. They are taking pictures for a brochure. Ban it, she said, explicitly. Tell them that any commercial use of images taken on the property will be met with a cease and desist. You have to be the buzzkill. Audrey, you have to make the product your house worthless to her. I hung up feeling a strange mixture of dread and clarity. I sat in the driveway for a moment. Through the front window of my house, I could see movement. Someone was dancing. Someone was pouring a drink. They were oblivious. I opened the group chat. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. This was the point of no return. Once I sent this, I wasn't just the annoying sister. I was the enemy. I typed steadily, my fingers moving faster than my doubts. Audrey, hi everyone. I need to make a few things clear regarding the remainder of the weekend. This house is my private residence, not a rental property or event venue. Effectively, immediately, there is to be no commercial photography, no promotional social media tagging of the location, and no unauthorized events. Additionally, I want to clarify that I have not authorized, nor have I received, any payments collected for this trip. Any funds you paid were to Marissa directly. I am happy to host you as friends for 2 nights. But please respect that this is a home, not a business. I read it twice. It was cold. It was factual. It was bulletproof. I hit send. I watched the house. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then, I saw heads bow. I saw phones light up. The dancing in the window stopped. The figure pouring the drink paused mid-pour. I got out of the car and walked toward the front door. By the time I stepped into the hallway, the atmosphere had shifted from chaotic joy to a thick, suffocating silence. 12 women were looking at their phones, then at each other. Marissa was in the kitchen. She was staring at her screen. Her face was not red. It was pale. She looked up as I entered, and for a split second, I saw pure, unadulterated fear. But Marissa was a professional. She metabolized the fear and converted it instantly into martyrdom. She dropped her phone onto the counter with a clatter. She put her hands over her face, and then she began to weep. It was a performance worthy of a Tony Award. It wasn't an ugly cry. It was a beautiful, tragic sobbing that drew every eye in the room. "I can't believe you," she choked out. She turned to face the room, her hands trembling. "I can't believe my own sister would do this to me. Marissa," I started, keeping my voice level. "No," she screamed, cutting me off. She pointed a manicured finger at me. "Do not speak to me. You are punishing me. That is what this is. You are punishing me because I have friends and you don't. You are punishing me because I tried to do something nice for everyone." She looked at Paige. She looked at Lena. She looked at the strangers. "I did everything for her." She sobbed. "I helped her pick out this house. I helped her with the loan. I have been nothing but supportive. And this is how she thanks me. By humiliating me in front of my closest friends. By sending a text like I am some kind of criminal. She wasn't just lying. She was rewriting reality in real time. She had not helped me pick out the house. She had not helped with the loan. She hadn't even known I was buying it until Tuesday. But the women in the living room didn't know that. They only saw a sobbing woman and a stone-faced homeowner. "Audrey," Lena said, stepping forward. Her voice was hesitant. That text was a little harsh. "Marissa has been working really hard on this." I looked at Lena. I looked at the confusion on her face. "I'm sorry if it felt harsh." I said, "But I needed to be clear. There is a business proposal in the printer tray for a wedding venue using my address. I am not punishing anyone. I am protecting my mortgage." Marissa let out a wail of despair. "It is just a draft I was dreaming. You are destroying my dreams because you are jealous." She ran out of the room, up the stairs, and slammed the door to the guest room. The silence that followed was heavy. "I am going to check on her," a woman named Chloe said, glaring at me as she brushed past. I stood in the kitchen. I did not follow her. I did not apologize. I took a glass from the cabinet, filled it with water, and drank it. My hand was shaking, but I forced myself to stand still. I can be kind without being available. The sky finally broke 20 minutes later. It started with a rumble that shook the floorboards, followed by a deluge of rain that turned the windows into gray sheets of water. The wind howled around the corners of the house, whistling through the gaps in the old siding. The beach was gone. The patio was gone. The fantasy of a sun-drenched girls' weekend was washed away, leaving 15 people trapped in 1,200 square feet of tension. The house became a pressure cooker. The air grew heavy and humid. The smell of wet wool and damp shoes began to permeate the living room. There was nowhere to go. The guests sat on the sofas, on the floor, on the stairs. The music had been turned off. The conversation was low and stilted. I sat in the armchair by the window, reading a book I wasn't actually reading. I was watching. I watched the dynamic shift. The united front Marissa had built was cracking under the weight of the rain and the truth. Marissa had come back downstairs, her eyes red-rimmed and brave, playing the role of the wounded soldier carrying on. She was trying to rally the troops for a game of charades, but the energy was dead. I saw Paige Rudd sitting in the corner, her back against the wall. She wasn't watching the charades. She was on her phone. I watched her thumb move. Tap, tap, swipe. I recognized the interface. Venmo. She was scrolling through a list. I saw the flash of red text, the color of money leaving an account. She wasn't paying Marissa. She was refunding someone. I looked closer. Paige was whispering to the woman next to her, a girl named Sarah, who looked particularly miserable. Sarah looked at her phone, nodded, and then gave a small, relieved smile. Paige was refunding the weekend fund money to the people she had invited. She knew. Paige caught me looking at her. She didn't look away. She didn't smile, but she gave a nearly imperceptible nod. It was an acknowledgement. I see it. I am fixing my part of it. It was the first crack in the dam. Marissa thought she controlled the room, but she only controlled the noise. The money, the real power, was quietly leaving the building. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked the screen. It was an unknown number. Area code 212, New York City. I stood up and walked into the small laundry room off the kitchen. Closing the door behind me, it was the only private space left downstairs. "Hello, is this Audrey?" The voice was male, breathless, and laced with a panic that vibrated through the speaker. I recognized it immediately. "Ian," I asked. "Ian Voss, my brother-in-law." A man who usually spoke in slow, deliberate sentences about golf handicaps and craft beer. He sounded like he was running. "Audrey, thank God. I have been calling Marissa for 3 hours. She is not picking up. Is she with you?" "She is here." I said, "We are all here. Is she okay? I mean, is she calm?" "She's playing charades." I said. Ian let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Charades? Right. Of course. Audrey, listen to me. This is going to sound crazy, but I need you to check something for me. Did she bring a tan envelope? A thick one? It might be in her tote bag. Or she might have hidden it." My heart stopped. The image of the storage bench flashed in my mind. The envelope wedged behind the lining. Why, I asked. "Please, Audrey, just tell me if you have seen it. What is in the envelope?" Ian, he went silent. I could hear rain hitting the roof of my house. Loud and relentless. "It is a summons," he whispered. "A summons. Civil court," he said. "Audrey, it is a mess. The wellness retreat she did in the Catskills last month, the one she said was a huge success. It wasn't. The venue canceled on her because she didn't pay the deposit. But she had already taken the money from the clients. She didn't refund them. She spent it." I closed my eyes, leaning my forehead against the cool metal of the washing machine. "She spent it on what inventory? Branding. This trip." He paused. "She told me she was going to your place to clear her head. She said you invited her. But then I started getting calls from her friends asking about the Seabrook Fund. Audrey, please tell me she isn't charging people to stay at your house." I didn't answer immediately. The silence was an answer in itself. "She is, isn't she?" Ian asked, his voice breaking. "She is collecting money. Ian, she calls it a contribution." "Oh, God." He sounded defeated. "That is fraud. Again, if she does this while the other lawsuit is pending..." "Audrey, you have to stop her. You have to tell her to give it back." "Ian," I said, "why are you calling me? Why aren't you here?" "Because she took the car," he said, "and she took the cash from our emergency safe. I can't get there. I am trying to find a ride. But with the storm..." He took a ragged breath. "She isn't on vacation. Audrey, she is hiding. She thinks if she launches this new driftwood thing, she can make enough money to pay back the Catskills people before the court date. She is trying to flip your house to save her skin." The puzzle pieces slammed together. The urgency, the fake listing, the sheer number of people. It wasn't just entitlement, it was desperation. She was running a Ponzi scheme with my living room as the collateral. I realized then that I wasn't dealing with a mean sister. I was dealing with a drowning woman who would climb on top of my head to breathe. "Ian," I said, "I need you to listen to me. Marissa is here." But I did not agree to any of this. I did not agree to a business plan. I did not agree to be a venue. "I know," he said. "I know you didn't. You are the only sane one in this family. I haven't opened the envelope." I said carefully, "But I think I know where it is." "Don't give it to her," he said quickly. "If she knows you have it, she will spin it. She will say you stole it. Just keep it safe. I am coming. I will be there by tonight if the road's clear. Just don't let her do anything stupid. It is too late for that. Ian." I hung up. I stood in the laundry room, the sound of the rain deafening. I felt a strange sense of calm. The confusion was gone. I knew exactly what I was fighting now. I opened the door and walked back into the kitchen. Marissa was there. She had abandoned the charades game. She was refilling her wine glass. Her back to me. She sensed me. She turned around. Her eyes narrowed. "Who were you talking to?" she asked. I didn't lie. I didn't see the point anymore. "Ian," I said. The glass in her hand wobbled. A splash of red wine landed on the white quartz counter. "You spoke to Ian. He called me." "Marissa, he was looking for you." Her face went through a complex series of contortions. Shock, calculation, rage. "What did he say?" Her voice was a whisper. But it carried. "He asked about a tan envelope," I said, "and he told me about the Catskills." The color drained from her face so completely she looked like a statue. He is lying," she stammered. "He is jealous. He is trying to sabotage me. You know how he gets." He sounded worried. "Marissa, he said you are in trouble. He said this weekend isn't a vacation. It is a pivot." The kitchen was open to the living room. The charades game had stopped. Everyone was listening. The rain battered the roof. But inside, it was dead silent. Marissa realized she had an audience. She realized she was losing control of the narrative. So she pulled the pin on the grenade. "You are such a liar," she said, her voice rising to a shriek. "You are so desperate to make me look bad. You can't stand it. Can you? Can't stand what? You can't stand that people actually like me?" she yelled. She stepped toward me. Her face twisted. "That is what this is all about. It is not about the house. It is not about the money. It is about the fact that you are 33 years old and you are alone." "Marissa, stop," I said quietly. "No, I won't stop. You bought this house to prove something. Audrey, you bought it to prove you are worth loving. You thought if you had a pretty house, maybe someone would finally want to stay with you. But guess what? You are still just the sad, anxious little sister who needs me to bring the party." She gestured to the room, to the women watching with wide, horrified eyes. "Look at them. They are here because of me. They paid because of me. You are just the landlord. You are nothing without me. You are empty. Audrey." Just like this house was before I got here. The words were designed to maim. She was using everything she knew about my deepest fears, my loneliness, my introversion, my feeling of inadequacy, and weaponizing it to distract everyone from her own crimes. She wanted me to scream. She wanted me to cry. She wanted me to prove her right that I was unstable, hysterical, unlovable. I looked at her. I saw the terror behind her eyes. I saw the trembling in her hands. I saw a woman who had burned every bridge she had ever built and was now standing on the last one, holding a match. I didn't feel angry. I felt a profound, exhausting grief. I took a step back. "You are right," I said. Marissa blinked. She hadn't expected that. "I am alone," I continued, "and I am anxious, and I did buy this house to build a life." I looked her dead in the eye. "But I bought it with my own money. I bought it with my own truth. And I would rather be alone in this house than be surrounded by people I have to lie to." I paused. The room was so quiet, I could hear the refrigerator humming. "You can't build your life by spending mine. Marissa." I turned my back on her. "Audrey," she screamed, Don't you walk away from me. I am talking to you. I walked out of the kitchen. I walked through the living room, past the silent guests who parted like the Red Sea. I walked up the stairs. I went into my room and locked the door. I sat on the bed. My hands were shaking so hard I had to tuck them under my legs. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I let the tears come then. Silent, hot tears that burned my cheeks. I cried for the sister I wanted. I cried for the sister I had. And I cried because I knew that when I walked back downstairs, I wouldn't be a sister anymore. I would be a witness. The storm outside had turned the afternoon into a premature twilight. Rain lashed against the siding of the house with a violence that made the windows rattle in their frames. Inside, the air was thick with humidity and the smell of wet wool, stale wine, and impending disaster. I sat at the small desk in the corner of my bedroom. The only space I had left, I had a notepad in front of me. I was transcribing the email Sloane Becker had sent me. My handwriting was steady, my pen pressing hard into the paper. Notice to cease and desist. I wrote, to Marissa Lewis. You are hereby notified that you do not have authorization to rent, sublet, advertise, or conduct commercial business at the property located at 424 Sanderling Lane. You are not a tenant. You are a guest. Any funds collected by you in relation to this property have been collected fraudulently and without the owner's consent. You are directed to immediately cease all operations, remove all online listings, and refund all unauthorized payments. I signed my name at the bottom. It looks strange to see my signature as a weapon. For 33 years, my signature had been a thing of compliance, signing birthday cards, signing permission slips, signing checks to bail Marissa out of parking tickets. Now, it was a wall. I tore the page from the notebook. I folded it once. I went downstairs. The living room was a tableau of misery. The power had flickered twice, and the Wi-Fi was spotting in and out, leaving 15 people stranded without their digital lifelines. They sat on the sofas and the floor, picking at a platter of cheese that had gone sweaty in the warmth of the room. Marissa was by the fireplace, her back to the room, aggressively poking at a log that refused to catch fire. I walked up to her. I didn't want a scene. I wanted clarity. Marissa, I said softly. She turned. Her mascara was smudged, but her jaw was set in a line of defiance. What do you want now? Audrey. Are you here to tell us we are breathing too loudly? I held out the paper. I need you to read this. I said, it is formal notice regarding the house. She looked at the paper, then at me. A spark of theatricality lit up her eyes. She snatched the paper from my hand. Oh, secrets, she said, her voice raising a few decibels. Is this a love letter or an eviction notice? Read it, Marissa, please. She didn't read it silently. She unfolded it, smoothed it against her hip, and turned to face the room. Everyone, she announced. Her voice was bright, manic. My sister has written me a letter. Let us see what sweet sentiments she has to share. Marissa, don't. I warned. She cleared her throat and began to read aloud, projecting like she was on stage. To Marissa Lewis, you are hereby notified that you do not have authorization. She stopped. She looked at the paper, then at the room. She laughed. A sharp, incredulous sound. She is serving me, she shrieked. She looked at her friends. You guys, my own sister is serving me a cease and desist in her living room. The room went deadly silent. The uncomfortable shifting stopped. All eyes were on us. Any funds collected by you in relation to this property have been collected fraudulently. Marissa read, her voice shaking with mock horror, refund all unauthorized payments. She crumpled the paper into a ball and threw it at my feet. This is unbelievable, she said, turning to the group. Do you hear this? She is treating me like a criminal. After I cooked for everyone, after I organized the carpool, she's calling me a fraud because I tried to cover the cost of the groceries. It is not about groceries. Marissa, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. It is about the listing. It is about the $6,000. She ignored me. She turned to her friends, her arms wide. "I cannot stay here," she said. "I cannot stay in a house where I'm treated like this. The negativity is toxic. It is suffocating. Who wants to leave? Let us go to a hotel. Let us go anywhere but here." She looked around, expecting a mass uprising. She expected them to stand up, grab their bags, and march out into the storm in solidarity. "Come on," she urged. "We will boycott this negativity. We will go to the Marriott on the highway. I will put it on my card. Who is with me?" 2 women stood up immediately. One was the girl who had asked for the wine glasses. The other was the friend who had been measuring the door. They looked at me with disdain, grabbed their purses, and moved to Marissa's side. But the others didn't move. They looked at the window, where the rain was slashing against the glass in horizontal sheets. They looked at the comfortable, dry sofas. And then they looked at Marissa, who was vibrating with a manic energy that felt less like righteous indignation and more like desperation. "Marissa," Lena said quietly, "it is pouring. We can't drive in this. We can," Marissa insisted, "we can caravan. Anything is better than staying where we are not wanted." "I don't think Audrey wants us to leave," Paige Rudd said from the corner. "She just wants the money back." Marissa whipped around to look at Paige. "Whose side are you on?" she snapped. "It is not about sides," Paige said. It is a storm. Marissa, and the notice says you collected funds fraudulently. That is kind of a big deal." Marissa's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at the room. She saw the hesitation. She saw the fatigue. She realized that her charisma, usually her most reliable currency, was devaluing by the second. "Fine," she spat. "Stay here with the landlord from hell. I'm going to pack my bag." She stormed past me, bumping my shoulder hard enough to make me stumble. I stood there for a moment, looking at the ball of paper on the floor. I picked it up. I smoothed it out and placed it on the mantel. "I am sorry," I said to the room. "I know this is uncomfortable, but I had to do it." No one said anything. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't hostile anymore. It was the silence of people who were realizing they had bought tickets to a play that was going horribly wrong. A sharp knock at the front door made everyone jump. I looked at the door. It wasn't a friendly knock. It was a rhythmic, authoritative pounding. I walked to the door and opened it. Evie Mercer stood there. She was wearing a yellow raincoat and holding a large black umbrella that was struggling against the wind. In her other hand, she held a clipboard protected by a plastic cover. "Evie," I said, "please, come in. It is awful out there." She shook her head. She didn't cross the threshold. Her face, usually soft with neighborly politeness, was hard. "I am not staying. Audrey, I just came to deliver this." She handed me the clipboard. "What is this?" I asked. "It is a log," she said. "From the Neighborhood Association group chat." I looked down at the paper under the plastic. Friday, 6:30 p.m. 4 SUVs blocking visibility on Sanderling Lane. Friday, 9:15 p.m. Loud music. Bass vibration felt at number 426. Saturday, 10 a.m. Strangers entering side gate of number 422 to take photos of hydrangeas. Saturday, 2 p.m. Cigarette butts flicked onto the driveway of number 428. I looked up at Evie. Shame, hot and prickly, washed over me. "Evie, I am so sorry." I said, "I didn't know about the cigarette butts. I will clean them up immediately. It is not just the butts." "Audrey," Evie said. Her voice was disappointed. "We thought you were a quiet girl. We thought you wanted a home. But this is a fraternity house. People are saying you are running a timeshare." "I am not. I promised. It is just my sister. It is a mistake." Evie tightened her grip on the umbrella. "Seabrook Cove remembers. Audrey. Reputation is like wet cement here. Once it sets, it is hard to change. Fix it, or the next visit will be from the code enforcement officer." She turned and walked back into the rain. I closed the door. I leaned my forehead against the wood. Seabrook Cove remembers. I had owned the house for 72 hours, and I had already become the pariah. Marissa hadn't just taken my money, she had taken my standing in the community. She had turned me into the problem neighbor. I turned around. The group was watching me. They had heard. Cigarette butts. I asked into the silence. One of the women near the window looked down. I might have dropped one. I'm sorry. I didn't yell. I didn't have the energy to yell. Please don't go into the neighbors' yards, I said. And please move the cars if they are blocking the street. I walked away from them. I needed to do something with my hands. I needed to clean. If I couldn't clean my reputation, I could at least clean the house. I walked into the dining area. There were bags everywhere. Totes, backpacks, boxes. I started moving them to the side, trying to create a path to the sliding door. I picked up a heavy canvas tote bag. It was open. Inside, I saw rolls of streamers, a box of fancy paper straws, and a stack of those driftwood-branded napkins. And there, tucked between a bag of balloons and a portable speaker, was a glint of brass. I froze. I reached into the bag. My fingers closed around the cold metal. I pulled it out. It was my father's compass. The one Marissa said was lost. The one she said Paige had moved. The one she said would turn up. It hadn't been lost. It had been packed. I looked at the bag again. It wasn't a guest's luggage. It was an inventory bag. It was filled with props. There were battery-operated candles. There was a fake coral sculpture I had never seen before. And my father's compass. She had taken it off the shelf not because it was in the way, but because it fit the aesthetic. She had stolen the one sentimental object I had in the house to use as a prop for her nautical chic photo shoot. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the sound of a cable finally shearing under too much tension. The heat of my embarrassment vanished. The wavering uncertainty about being a good sister evaporated. What replaced it was a cold, crystalline clarity. I gripped the compass. I walked into the living room. "Where is Marissa?" I asked. "She is upstairs." Someone said, "I didn't go upstairs." I stood in the center of the room. "I want everyone to listen to me," I said. The tone of my voice was different. It wasn't the polite hostess voice. It wasn't the apologetic sister voice. It was the voice of the person whose name was on the deed. The women looked up. They stopped scrolling. They stopped whispering. Paige Rudd stood up. She walked over to me. She looked at the compass in my hand. "Is that—" She started. "She stole it," I said. "She packed it in her event kit. It wasn't lost. It was inventory." Paige closed her eyes. She let out a long breath. "I knew it," she whispered. She turned to the group. "You guys," she said, "you need to listen to Audrey." The room was attentive now. The fear of the storm had been replaced by the intrigue of the drama. Paige looked at me. "Go ahead," she said. I hesitated, but then Paige spoke again. She did this to my friend Becca. Paige said to the room, 2 years ago, the Hamptons launch weekend. Remember that? A few heads nodded. Marissa used Becca's condo. Paige said, she told Becca she was bringing 3 friends. She brought 20. She sold tickets. She trashed the place. Becca got hit with a $4,000 special assessment for damage to the common areas. Marissa blocked her number and told everyone Becca was mentally unstable. A gasp went through the room. I came here because Marissa swore she had changed. Paige said, looking at me with apology in her eyes, she swore this was legit. She swore you were partners. I am not her partner. I said, I am her victim. I walked over to the coffee table. I placed the compass down with a heavy thud. I took out my phone. I connected it to the large TV on the wall via AirPlay. The screen lit up. I opened my photo gallery. This is the listing, I said. The image of my house appeared on the 60-inch screen. The Driftwood House. $1,200 per night. The room murmured. She listed this on Tuesday. I said, I bought the house on Tuesday. She didn't ask me. She didn't tell me. She sold your tickets before I even had the keys. I swiped. The QR code appeared. The Seabrook Cove Weekend Fund. This money. I said, $6,200. It is not going to a contractor. It is not going to groceries. It is in an account solely controlled by Marissa. I swiped again, the business proposal, the micro-event business plan, the line about leveraging family property to avoid overhead. She calls you guests, I said to the room, but in her paperwork, she calls you revenue. She calls you the pilot program. I disconnected the phone. The TV screen went black. I am not trying to ruin your weekend. I said, I am trying to tell you that you are part of a business transaction that I never agreed to. You are not guests in a home. You are customers in a pop-up shop that is about to be shut down. The silence that followed was total. It was the silence of 15 people simultaneously realizing they had been played. Then, from the top of the stairs, a slow clapping began. Clap, clap, clap. We all turned. Marissa was standing on the landing. She had changed clothes. She was wearing a structured blazer and jeans. Her hair brushed. Her face reapplied. She looked like a CEO addressing a hostile board. Bravo, she said. She walked down the stairs. The crowd parted for her, but not out of respect, out of wariness. That was a very compelling presentation. Audrey, she said, very corporate. I can see why you are a middle manager. You are very good at charts. She reached the bottom of the stairs and faced the group, but she left out one small detail. Marissa said, a tiny, insignificant detail. She paused for effect. She promised me. Marissa said, I stared at her. What she promised me I could invest. Marissa shouted, spinning to face me, 6 months ago. At Christmas we were drinking wine, and you said, if I ever buy a house, I want us to run it together. You said it. Audrey. You said you wanted to build something with me. I did not say that. I said, you did. You were drunk. Maybe you don't remember. But I remember. I built my whole year around that promise. I invested everything I had into this brand because I thought we were partners. And now that the hard work is done, now that I brought the clients, you are backing out. She turned to the women, her eyes glistening with tears that looked frighteningly real. She is cutting me out, she whispered. She is taking the business I built, the brand I created, and she is kicking me to the curb so she can keep all the profit for herself. That is what this is. It is a hostile takeover. It was breathtaking. It was a lie so audacious, so completely untethered from reality, that it momentarily stunned me. And then, she played her ace. I have Mom on the phone, she said. She held up her phone. The speaker was on. Mom. Are you there? I am here. Marissa. Diane's voice crackled through the room. Mom. Audrey is telling everyone I stole from her. She is throwing me out. Diane's voice filled the room, tinny and disappointed. Audrey. Diane said, I cannot believe what I am hearing. Your sister is trying to build a future. She is trying to be independent, and you are sabotaging her mom. She is charging people rent. I said, she is an entrepreneur, Diane shouted. Why are you so jealous of her ambition? You have always been this way, hoarding your toys. It is hard-hearted. Audrey, it is cruel. If you kick her out in this storm, do not bother coming to Thanksgiving. Do you hear me? The room looked at me. They looked at the phone. I felt a strange sensation. It wasn't pain. It was the feeling of a heavy coat sliding off my shoulders. The coat of obligation. The coat of needing their approval. I walked over to Marissa. I looked at the phone. Hello. Mom, I said. Audrey, you fix this, Diane warned. I will. I said. I looked at Marissa. You said I'm keeping the profit, I asked. Yes, Marissa said. You want the money for yourself? Okay, I said. Let's talk about the money. I turned to the group. Marissa says this is a business account, a shared investment. I looked at Paige. Paige, check your Venmo transaction. Click on the recipient details. Does it say Driftwood LLC? Or does it say Marissa Lewis? Paige pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen. It says Marissa Lewis. Paige said, and underneath, it says personal. I looked back at Marissa. And the refunds, I asked. Paige has been refunding people from her own pocket because you haven't issued any. Marissa's eye twitched. The bank. There is a processing delay. There is no bank delay on Venmo. Marissa. I said, it is instant. I took a step closer to her. So where did the money go? I asked. What? Marissa blinked. $6,200. It was sent to you 3 days ago. Where is it? It is in the account, she stammered. Show us. I said, open the app. Show us the balance. If it is there, I will apologize. I will admit I am the villain. I will let you stay. Marissa clutched her phone to her chest. I don't have to show you anything. My finances are private. Not when you are collecting other people's money. I said, show us the money. Marissa. She backed away. She hit the wall near the front door. You are attacking me, Mom. She is attacking me, Audrey. Stop it, Diane yelled from the phone. I didn't stop. Did you spend it? I asked. Did you spend it on the branding? Or did you spend it on something else? Marissa's breathing was shallow. She looked like a trapped animal. Suddenly, the front door flew open. The wind roared into the hallway, bringing a spray of rain and dead leaves. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the gray storm. He was soaked to the bone. His hair was plastered to his forehead. He wore a raincoat that was dripping water onto my hardwood floor. It was Ian. He looked wild. His eyes were wide, scanning the room frantically. He saw the crowd. He saw me. And then he saw Marissa pressed against the wall. Marissa, he gasped. Ian, Marissa whispered. The phone in her hand slipped, clattering to the floor. Diane was still shouting, but no one was listening. Ian stepped into the house. He didn't take off his shoes. He didn't say hello. Where is it? He asked. His voice was raw. Marissa stared at him. Where is what? The envelope. Ian said. He walked toward her, water squelching in his shoes. The tan envelope. Marissa, the one from the court. Marissa froze. Her face, which had been a mask of righteous anger moments ago, crumbled into something unrecognizable. It was the face of a child caught holding the match that burned down the house. I don't know what you are talking about, she whispered. Don't lie to me, Ian shouted. The sound was shocking. Ian never shouted. I know you took it. I know you hid it. The lawyer called me. Marissa. He told me everything. He told me about the second set of books. He told me about the diverted funds. He reached her. He grabbed her shoulders. If we don't produce those documents by Monday, they are going to issue a warrant. Do you understand? This isn't a civil suit anymore. It is criminal fraud. The room was so quiet you could hear the rain hitting Ian's coat. Marissa began to shake. I was going to fix it. She whimpered. I just needed this weekend. I just needed the driftwood money. I was going to pay them back. Ian let go of her. He stepped back, looking at her with a mixture of horror and exhaustion. You were using Audrey's house to launder the money, he asked. I was investing, she cried. I was building a business. Ian looked at me. Audrey, he said, do you have the envelope? I looked at Marissa. I saw the pleading in her eyes. Don't tell him. Please don't tell him. I thought about the storage bench. I thought about the note from Mrs. Gable. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. The stage had collapsed. The actors were forgetting their lines. My home wasn't a venue. It was a hiding place. It was a bunker for my sister's collapsing life. I looked at Ian. I didn't speak. I just looked toward the front door, toward the porch. Marissa saw my gaze. She let out a sob. Don't, she whispered. I walked to the door. I opened it. The wind hit me, cold and clean. It is on the porch, I said. I stepped out into the rain. Ian followed me. Marissa didn't move. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, weeping into her hands while the phone on the floor continued to broadcast Diane's voice asking what was happening. I walked to the storage bench. I unlocked it. I reached behind the lining. I pulled out the tan envelope. It was dry. It was heavy. I handed it to Ian. He took it. He looked at it like it was a bomb. Thank you, he said. He didn't open it. He just held it. I looked back through the open door. The guests were standing there, watching. They looked at Marissa, crumpled on the floor. They looked at the envelope in Ian's hand. They looked at the driftwood napkins scattered on the table. The illusion was dead. I stood in the rain, letting it soak my shirt, letting it wash away the last of the fear. I wasn't the little sister anymore. I was the witness to the wreckage, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to fix it. The rain was still hammering the roof of the porch, a relentless, deafening drum roll that seemed to isolate Ian and me from the rest of the world. I stood there, shivering slightly in the damp air, watching Ian stare at the tan envelope I had just placed in his hands. It was thick, heavy, the kind of envelope that carried consequences. I had held it for 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, I had felt the pull of curiosity, the dark, magnetic urge to rip the seal and see the full extent of my sister's ruin. I wanted to know the numbers. I wanted to see the dates. I wanted the ammunition that would prove to my mother, once and for all, that I was not the villain of this story. But I didn't open it. If I opened it, I became a participant. If I opened it, I dragged myself into the mud with her. Ian looked up at me, water dripping from his nose. "You didn't read it?" he asked. His voice was barely audible over the wind. "It is addressed to her." I said, "It is not my mail, and it is not my life." Ian let out a breath that was half sigh, half shudder. He looked at the envelope, then tucked it inside his soaked jacket, pressing it against his chest like he was trying to stop a bleeding wound. "Thank you, Audrey," he said. "Most people would have read it." "I am not most people," I said. "I am just the sister who wants her house back." We walked back inside. The transition from the roaring storm to the silent, suffocating tension of the living room was jarring. Marissa was still on the floor, her legs tucked under her face streaked with mascara. The guests, her customers, were standing in a loose semicircle, watching her with a mixture of pity and morbid fascination. When Ian walked in, the air in the room shifted. He wasn't the goofy brother-in-law anymore. He was the grim reaper of reality. "We have to go." "Marissa," Ian said. He didn't shout. His voice was flat, exhausted. Marissa looked up. Her eyes darted to his chest, where the outline of the envelope was visible under his coat. She flinched. "I can't go," she whispered. "I can't go back there. Ian, they are going to serve me. They are going to take the car. They are already taking the car." "Marissa," Ian said, "and if we don't get back to the city and meet with the lawyer by Monday morning, they are going to take a lot more than the car." Marissa put her head in her hands and began to sob again. But this wasn't the theatrical crying she had performed earlier. This was ugly, guttural weeping. It was the sound of a woman who had run out of road. "I just wanted to fix it," she choked out. "Fix what I asked. I was standing by the door, dripping water onto the mat." "Fix what?" "Marissa." Everything, she wailed. She looked up at the room, addressing the audience she had curated. "I am drowning." "Okay, is that what you want to hear? I am $80,000 in debt. The credit cards are maxed. The retreat center sued me for $50,000. Ian doesn't even know the half of it." Ian closed his eyes. "I thought..." She gasped for air. "I thought if I could just launch the Driftwood brand, if I could just make this weekend look perfect, I could get the deposits for the wedding season. I could pay off the lawsuit before it went to court. I could save the reputation. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was trying to save us." She looked at me, her eyes pleading for the absolution I had given her 1,000 times before. "I was going to pay you. Audrey, I swear, I just needed the venue. I just needed you to be available." The room was deadly quiet. Paige Rudd was wiping tears from her face. Even the woman who had dropped the cigarette butt looked devastated. It was a compelling speech. It was the speech of a victim fighting for survival. But I wasn't in the audience anymore. I walked over to her. I knelt down so I was at eye level, but I didn't touch her. "Marissa," I said. She sniffled, looking at me with hope. "You didn't come here because you missed me." I said, my voice was very soft, very clear. "You didn't come here because you wanted to bond. You came here because I had an asset you could liquidate." "Audrey, no." "Yes," I said. "You looked at my home. and you didn't see a sanctuary. You saw inventory. You looked at me, and you didn't see a sister. You saw a staff member you didn't have to pay. I stood up. I know you're scared. Marissa, I know you're in trouble. And I will help you find a lawyer. I will help you find a therapist. But I will not help you by letting you cannibalize my life to feed your debts. Marissa stared at me. The hope in her eyes died, replaced by a cold, hard shock. She had expected the rescue. She had expected the checkbook to open, the "it's okay" to come. "Get up," Ian said gently. He reached down and pulled her to her feet. She stood there, swaying slightly. She looked small. Ian looked at the group. "I am sorry." He said to the room, "I am sorry you were dragged into this." He steered Marissa toward the door. She didn't look back at me. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked out into the rain. A woman being led away from the scene of the accident she had caused. The door clicked shut. The silence that followed was heavy. But it was different. It wasn't tense anymore. It was hollow. Then, the movement began. It started with Paige. She picked up her bag. She walked over to me. "I am so sorry." "Audrey," she said. Her voice was thick. "I feel so stupid. I really thought I was helping you. You were kind." I said, "You were being a good friend. You just didn't know the full story." Paige nodded. She looked at her phone. "I just Venmo'd everyone their refunds," she said. "From my own account. I will deal with getting it back from Marissa later. I don't want anyone to feel like they paid for this." "Thank you." "Paige," I said, "that is honorable." She walked out. The others followed. It was an awkward, disjointed exodus. Some of them mumbled apologies as they passed. Sorry about the noise. Sorry about the mess. Others couldn't even make eye contact. Shame radiating off them like heat. They just grabbed their bags and hurried to their cars, desperate to put distance between themselves and the reality of what they had participated in. The woman who had measured the door, Chloe, stopped in front of me. "I deleted the photos," she said stiffly. "I won't post anything." "Thank you." She hesitated. "You know she is really sick." "You shouldn't be so hard on her." I looked at Chloe. Even now, after everything, the manipulation lingered. "Goodbye, Chloe," I said. She huffed and walked out. I stood in the doorway and watched them go. The convoy of SUVs that had arrived with such arrogance on Friday night was now retreating in defeat on Saturday afternoon, their taillights blurred in the rain, a string of red beads disappearing down Sanderling Lane. I was alone. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with the debris of the invasion, the driftwood napkins, the half-empty bottles of wine, the mud on the floor, the ghost of the noise. I locked the front door. I threw the deadbolt. I turned around and slid down the wood until I was sitting on the floor, right where Marissa had been. But I wasn't crying. I was breathing. In, out. My phone rang. It was sitting on the stairs where I had left it. I knew who it was. I picked it up. Diane. I accepted the call. I didn't say hello. "How could you?" Diane's voice was a shriek. It cracked with the force of her rage. "I just got off the phone with Ian. They are driving back in a storm. Marissa is catatonic. Audrey, she is devastated. You humiliated her in front of everyone. She humiliated herself." "Mom," I said, "I just turned on the lights." "You are cruel." Diane spat. "I never thought I raised a cruel daughter. You have this big house, this safety, and you couldn't give her one weekend. You couldn't just play along. She is your sister. She is in trouble. She is in trouble because she steals." "Mom," I said, "she stole from her clients. She stole from her friends. And she tried to steal from me. She didn't steal. She was borrowing. She would have paid it back. She has $6,000 of other people's money in her personal account." I said, "That is not borrowing. That is larceny." Diane made a noise of frustration. "You and your legal words. You always think you are so smart. You think because you have a job and a mortgage that you are better than her, but you are cold. Audrey, you are going to be alone in that house. You are going to rot in there with your perfect credit score and your empty heart." I walked into the kitchen. I looked at the rain washing the sliding glass doors. "Mom," I said, "what I am not going to argue with you, but I am going to set a rule. A rule. You are setting a rule for me. Yes, I am the homeowner. This is my property. You are welcome to visit me. You are welcome to come for coffee. But if you come here to advocate for Marissa, you will not be allowed inside. If you come here to tell me I am cruel for protecting myself, you will be asked to leave." There was a stunned silence on the other end. "How dare you?" she whispered. "I am an adult." "Mom," I said, "I am 33 years old. I am not a daughter on a leash anymore. I am done being the collateral damage for Marissa's choices. And I am done being the bad guy for refusing to set myself on fire to keep her warm. You are ungrateful." "Maybe," I said, "but I am safe." I hung up. I blocked the number. Just for tonight. I needed the silence. I didn't stop there. I sat down at the kitchen island. I opened my laptop. The house felt huge around me, but not lonely. It felt spacious. It felt like it was taking a deep breath along with me. I logged into the non-emergency portal for the Seabrook Cove Police Department. I filed a report. I didn't do it to send Marissa to jail. I knew it probably wouldn't go that far. I did it to create a record. Incident report. Fraudulent listing and unauthorized collection of funds. Subject Marissa Lewis / Lewis Lifestyle, LLC. Description: unauthorized commercial listing of private residence at 424 Sanderling Lane. Unauthorized collection of funds under the guise of property maintenance. I attached the screenshots, the listing, the Venmo page, the text messages. It was insurance. If she tried to claim tenancy, I had a police report dated today stating she was a trespasser running a scam. If the neighbors complained about the business, I had proof I had reported it myself. I hit submit. Then I emailed Sloan Becker. "Sloan, they are gone. Please proceed with sending cease and desist notices to Lux Weekend Swap and any other platform hosting the listing. Also, please draft a formal letter to Marissa Lewis confirming she has no tenancy rights and is permanently barred from the property. I want it on official letterhead. Thank you. Audrey." I closed the laptop. It was done. The legal firewall was up. I spent the next 3 hours cleaning. It was an exorcism. I stripped the beds. I washed the floors. I threw away the driftwood napkins. I took the swag bags and put them in the recycling bin. I wiped down every surface Marissa had touched. I found the compass on the coffee table where I had left it. I picked it up. The brass was cold. I walked to the shelf and put it back. True north. By the time I finished, it was 3 a.m. The storm had passed. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a silence so profound it rang in my ears. My phone buzzed. I looked at it. It was a text from Marissa. I hesitated. Then I opened it. It was a long block of text. Marissa. "I hope you are happy. Ian is talking about divorce. He says he can't trust me. You did this. You blew up my life over a stupid weekend. I know I made mistakes, and I'm sorry if you felt used. But family is supposed to have each other's backs. You broke me today. Audrey. I will never forget that. But I still love you, because I am the only one who actually knows you. Good luck with your empty house. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. Apology, blame, victimhood, and a final barb, all wrapped in a declaration of love. I looked at the words. You did this? No, I didn't do this. I just refused to let her do it to me. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it. I just archived the thread. I poured a glass of water and walked out onto the porch. The air was cool and smelled of salt and wet pine. The clouds were breaking, revealing a few faint stars. To the east, the horizon was beginning to turn a pale, bruised gray. Dawn was coming. I sat on the storage bench, the bench that had held the secret. I felt a heavy ache in my chest. It wasn't regret. I didn't regret kicking them out. I didn't regret calling Ian. It was grief. I was grieving the sister I wanted. I was grieving the fantasy that if I just gave enough, if I just loved enough, if I just bought the right house or hosted the right party, she would finally see me as a person and not a resource. I was grieving the loss of the illusion. Accepting that your sister is not safe to trust is a specific kind of funeral. It is a quiet burial. There are no flowers. There is just you, sitting on a porch at 4 a.m, realizing that you have to lock the door against your own blood. I took a sip of water. The ocean roared in the distance. The sound was steady, rhythmic, ancient. Don't let them turn this place into a stage. The stage was dark. The actors had gone home. The reviews were terrible, but the house was still standing. I looked at the yard. The hydrangeas were battered by the storm, but they were still rooted. They would bloom in the summer. I would plant more. I would paint the guest room a color I liked, not a neutral beige. I would buy a new chair for the corner. I was alone. Marissa was right about that. But as the first sliver of golden sun pierced the horizon, illuminating the wet shingles of my roof, I realized something else. I was alone, and for the first time in 33 years, the silence didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like peace. I closed my eyes and listened to the ocean. I was finally home. Thank you so much for listening to The Beach House Invasion. This story was a journey into the suffocating reality of toxic family dynamics and the hard-fought battle for personal boundaries. If you enjoyed watching Audrey reclaim her home and her life, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear where you are listening from. Drop your city and country in the comments. And if you have ever had to set a hard boundary with a family member, share your thoughts in English. Your stories inspire us. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories for more tales of justice, resilience, and the sweet satisfaction of standing your ground. Until next time, protect your peace.